Do we want to like put this? Oh, we're not on the screen yet. Okay.
Yeah, I'll hold off on visualizing that. Now, YouTube on the VOD squad will see all of the screen. They've got chat in the corner. All of this will be cool. Everyone in Discord will see it when we're ready.
SlowlyCrushed, there is a greater than 0% chance that if you open this on your PC while you're currently bouncing a project will negatively affect the bounce. It depends entirely on your system specs, but it's usually safer to just let the bounce happen.
Oh,
I am meant to be speaking. I just wasn't.
Yeah, she's just quiet.
Just a signal. It's just a signal being stupid. That's all.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when we're ready, you can push the button.
The button's been pushed.
Okay. So we're live right now. Are we live?
We are live by being alive. We are recording.
Okay then. Well, like I said, I was gonna take off clothes right off the bat. Welcome to the No Show.
No.
Yeah, so we're going to pretend that we have any idea what the hell we're doing. We're gonna pull up a bunch of songs and pretend that we know what we're doing while judging them. We'll do some listening to the source tracks. We'll listen through the actual remix that's been submitted, and we'll take a little time to figure out how the source is being used. We'll talk about some musical things, and then we'll say no, because that's what we do as judges. Can the judges DJP? So, with that in mind, I think we had agreed that the first track we are going to take a look at is by artist SlowlyCrushed. And this one is a remix of A Short Hike.
That's right. Everyone can see my screen in Discord chat. Can we confirm?
Mm-hmm.
Can chat confirm? If yours is the DAW, it is indeed. And also, silly or stupid question, when I hit play, audio will happen. Judges, if you are also on the screen, go ahead and right-click and mute the share screen, or you will have a really miserable experience hearing it twice. And that's enough time for everyone to have done that, so I'm going to hit play.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Everybody can hear that? Okay, cool. Go ahead and stop it for now, because I don't want to listen to this stupid thing anyways.
Yeah, we need
why don't we
sources.
start out by... Yeah, why don't we start out with taking a look at the source. So there's two sources on this one from Short Hike. There's Somewhere in the Woods, and there's Snow, Lots of Snow.
Yep. And get a YouTube window up here. In
Now,
real
will
time.
this also play through Sonobus? Or are we gonna
Wait, are we going to
unmute
have
the
to
screen?
see what his recommendations are? Because if so, that's not
You all
something I
know
want.
them. It's fine.
The Block Drain!
Yeah. Drain cleaning Australia is great fun. Okay, so A Short Hike. What was that first one?
Somewhere in the Woods.
Sick. Okay. You will probably want to unmute stream to hear it. Hear the source,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah.
think it just sort of zones out from here, right?
Most likely. Yeah, he didn't use the rest, so it's probably not worth looking at.
Okay. Let's take a look at. So one little thing to just call out about that one. Can we keep this up? Because we'll want to come back to this probably.
Yeah.
So a couple of things to call out there. It's got a really strong melody, right?
Yeah.
But there's some really fun backing rhythm elements that you could easily pull in as well. That would be very reminiscent, even if you were doing other stuff. You know, just having that kind of pattern that was going on. So.
Yeah,
And then the
kind
other
of
one was
ping pong
snow,
groove.
lots of snow. Yeah, there was a really hip little thing there. Yeah, man, I heard the same thing right off the bat. The back and forth patterns. So there's the melody line. Offbeat there is really hip too. So I really appreciate the piano's lo-fi feel with the heavy filter on it, but then the strings are very forward. So this doesn't really have much of a melody line over here. This is more the vibe and that string line. Okay. Is there more after this? Good, I didn't want to talk to you anyways.
I've looked so many times through archipelago settings that I want to believe I know the sources inside and out at this point.
Yeah. So this sounds like it's looped back around.
Yep.
So,
We hit loop point officially.
cool.
Pull the old Studio One back up.
So a couple of fun things that are going on there. Couple of specific, very clear melody lines. So what we're going to do next is we're going to listen to the song the entire way through. And we'll do that once. We'll spend a little time looking at source usage, and then we'll listen to the whole thing again. And then we'll talk about some of the things that we've caught while we're going through it.
Yeah.
So Seth, hit the button.
Yes. Once the judges have remembered to remute the stream so that they don't get disoriented. And that should be just enough time to do that. So without further ado, Ash.
Well, that sucked. So-
Brad hit him with
That
the
was
instant
fantastic.
no.
Cool. Okay, so let's go through and let's talk a little bit about source usage. So there was some pretty clear. There was a couple of points I should have spent time to write this down as we were getting through, but there was a couple of specific spots where we heard really strong melodic content.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just identify where those locations were right off the bat.
Yeah, I think this spike in the waveform is right where the drums start giving this the pound. That's probably a good place to point out.
The first, or the change from the first source to the second source, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It actually might make more sense. I meant to write down notes, but I got distracted by the fact that it was a good song.
Yeah.
I wrote some notes,
and-
so I detected that the source started appearing at around 028-ish with the ping-pongy effects.
The back.
And pretty much the entire arrangement is just source A and then source B with a transition in the middle. I would have liked it to have been smoother than it was, but the entire vibe just clicks so much together. It's just hard to too easy to just like discard.
Yeah. So, it would have made a lot more sense to write down as I was going through. Can you hit like 109,
Mm-hmm.
please?
Yeah, at the
Right
I'll
in
get
there.
a couple seconds lead
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. So this whole section right here was pretty melodically driven. So let's jump ahead to the 2-minute mark. Let's jump ahead to around 2 minutes.
I do respect the translation of this first source into 6.8 as opposed to the original 4.4.
Missed it, Bev. Sorry.
Oh.
I like that transition actually a lot.
It's a very smooth transition into another time signature.
70. Seth, can you pause?
Thanks, Seth.
Everybody
Also, I was
doesn't
trying
get
to-
the free show right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
I
know.
agree, Chris, though.
Yeah.
It's a nice transition right there.
It was so smooth. It went from the 6/8 into a 4/4 without missing a beat, and had to use a pun.
Yeah, only a subtle increase in tempo.
That was really nice.
I mean, I felt
So-
on the flip side, I actually felt a little bit more unsure about the transition simply because we got the shift from the two time signatures.
Yeah.
It just like felt like we ended up with like two separate vibes, but the chords that were used to go from one section to another just cancels out a lot of it. So while I can't really say the praises as much as it ups the rest of the group, it just works TM.
I thought
I,
it stitched it together beautifully.
One thing I'll note, so just going back to, can you just play like the first 10 seconds of the Snow Lots of Snow track, Seth? Remember to unmute us. So that boom boom, the two blocks that the guy does in the right hand, that Mark does in the right hand, that is the chord pattern that's being used there when the transition occurs going into that section in the track. So It's just broken instead of being flat chords.
I'm curious if there's any like key or chord modulation, or if those two pieces are like close enough that when that chord comes in, it's just nice and like right on. Because I don't, being that this is the first time I've even heard these pieces, and then this track, it didn't even seem to me that it was two different tracks. It just felt like a transition into section.
Yeah, they are in different keys in the original. Just glanced at it really quick. Roost, I'm on your side actually. So I would not have recognized that it was two different works, because I felt that I recognize, there's the temporal transposition, like it changed time signatures, and that's going to cause a jump, especially after there's been some pretty intense stuff on that first one.
Yes.
But the way that they dovetailed together from a musical standpoint, I didn't notice.
Which is a
too much of
thing.
a transition there.
That is a thing we look for in judging, specifically when we have multiple tracks, is we don't like that stapled on feeling or like medley-itis that can happen where it doesn't feel like the sources come together as one unified whole. This has that.
I thought that was really nice. There was well, we can go back and we can are we all in agreement that there's enough source, that we have a preponderance of source here? It's not necessarily just in the melody, but in the chord progression and stuff.
I would say even a postponderance.
Correct.
My
Okay.
notes
Absolutely.
are very clear on this one. It's evident all the way through. Source A,
Yeah.
Source B, Bosh, it's good.
Cool. Well, let's go back and we're gonna listen to it a second time. And judges, we're gonna be listening from let's get a little bit more specific this time around.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't muted the stream audio, now's your chance. Notepads at the
Just
ready,
a-
going on mute.
So I want to call out something very specific. Steph, can you move it back a little bit so that we can see the waveform for the big banger section? Yeah, like just yeah. So one of the things that I try to mention a lot is that when you're framing a song, you don't make the payoff section play for too long. You always need it to be less than what the person wants because that's going to bring them back to the song in the future. You don't want the payoff thing to play 7 times, which is super fun in situ, but then you're burned down on it by the end of it. So I not only appreciate that you did a really good job of just going through that the one time. You know, you get what, like, we don't even get 30 seconds of it. Like, it's like my wife. Like, you know, you get this you get this very short period of time where it's exactly what we've been waiting for several minutes.
Did you really just say that?
I forgot you're here, Chris. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
god.
And so you have this fantastic just payoff section, and then not only is it done, where it's like, okay, I don't have to hear it anymore. You know, this was good, and now I want to go back and listen to the song again. But then you still give us a couple more, just like a few second little pops right after it. I love that.
Yeah, the
I
hits.
love the payoff section, and then those hits are super hip. So, fantastic. I like this track a lot. Certainly, there's some nitpicks. The drums sound like they were only or the big drums only sound like they're volumized for later in the song, not for the beginning part. And the thing with the bottles and some of that. But I think this is really nice.
I would argue that
I
that
don't
is
know.
a staple of the style, like the drums, because like Sigaros
Big
is very
slam.
yeah, where it's like we cooked the shit out of the toms, and it's that the whole way because that is the like that's the ribbon. That's what ties
Yeah.
the bow.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Feel
Yeah,
like I'm continuing the trend of counterpoint with this one. You do indeed have the rigid bottle blowing that happening throughout the first source, but by the time it starts to end up going off sync at the start of the second, it just gives you a warning, as in preparing yourself for anything that may just suddenly happen, like starting the anticipation for the big rock build-up. So it's got its place. I can agree that something like this may not be for everyone, but maybe in an intellect I can understand why this decision was done.
Well, I love it. It's an easy yes for me. I love the bottle blowing instrument. I love that it just does the same thing all the way through because it brings a consistency to the whole thing. The two sources go together super well. The transition was smooth as heck, and I love it.
Yeah, this like Chimpa, this is an easy yes for me. I think it nailed the style. It successfully brought these two tracks together in a way that does not sound like two separate tracks. It has a really good dynamic curve. And I don't mean like in terms of like volume. I mean like the storytelling for beginning to end. Like we get our nice 3 acts. The payoff is exactly the payoff you're looking for. There's really nicely done ear candy in the mix where you've got the ping-ponging acoustic guitars counterpointed with the bottles, with the claps. Like there's a lot of attention paid here. It's a yes for me.
Yeah, and it's not over-engineered either. You know, like it doesn't have so many things that you don't have the opportunity to just focus on what it's doing right. So,
The overall
Chris,
vibe
Josh?
and oh,
No, go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like the overall vibe with the entire thing, the way the treatment for both sources, the overall treatment, and it's like just going away from what I'm seeing as personal flaws, and the overall presentation of the entire thing, I just vibe so well with it, and I can't see it in any other direction other than a yes. Which is strange because
Yeah.
it's meant to be the no show. We're just starting off too nice. What are we doing?
We had to hype.
Yeah.
Looks like Larry might be weighing in the chat. I don't know why he won't get up here and join us.
We'll write
He's
something
asking how
eventually, Larry.
Yeah, this
Did you
is.
ask him to come in up here?
I mean,
We usually leave the keys under the doormat for Larry.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he knows how to.
He's
get
doing
up
other stuff.
here.
So,
He said no.
Yeah, this is an easy yes for me. Yeah, I think like the out of time bottle blowing and the Sigaros overhyped toms are probably nitpicks.
Yeah.
In my perspective, I really do like the tie-in of the tremolo picking that came in during the more climactic 30 seconds or so, and especially that it's been treated like a background element, just as in the source, and it's just that little extra layer that really just helps sell the energy on that part. But I'm gushing over a small thing. This is really just overall an easy yes.
Okay, so I'll reject it, and we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, get ready for your yes.
Okay, so for the next one, why don't we do the Final Fantasy VII track?
Lagrimas.
Lagrimas, because I'm pretty sure that Absent and Undone is here in the chat.
Cool. Sending a dream to the universe, right? No. Listen to the cries of the planet.
Listen to the cries of the planet.
Yeah. City of the Ancients, or Forgotten Capital.
Okay.
I
Judges,
did not.
Let's unmute the stream.
I love when YouTube just plays when I open a tab when I didn't ask it to. I love that. Piece of shit. Sorry, I'm abusing that button.
That's an official vote on YouTube.
It's a private fact. Is this with voice mod?
It's with voice meter, and
Okay.
yes, it's bad. It's just funny. Okay, yeah. FF7 heads know this track.
This is a good one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of my favorites from them. Stupid bassoon, I love it.
I had to double check that this wasn't like a fixed audio.
Or a silver gunner.
Yeah,
If it was Silver Gunner, would have heard the Flintstones by now.
that's true. We'd have gotten God already. And there's the loop.
That's the loop. So there's a couple big things that are really easy to pull out of this, right? So you get the long sustained melody that really only shows up in the second half of that. You got the 3/2 synth thing,
Mm-hmm.
which was so creepy in the game. I distinctly remember the first time I ever heard that in like 6th grade. And you've got a couple of little doodle-doo things that are going on around each one of them. So yeah, there's a couple of very specific things that are easy to pull out of this one to remember which one is which. So let's go take a listen to the track.
Yeah, to quickly answer Seth Skoda in chat, I am using voice meter potato who also make virtual audio cable to deliver you the audio via the stream. Yay, free and open source software that sometimes doesn't work and then you spend a million years fixing it. Anyway, this is the warning for the judges to mute the stream chat. You won't get a second one. Here we go. This is Las Lagrimas.
Okay. I don't feel like we have to talk too much about the source usage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, we don't. It's
I
there.
definitely didn't hear any source in there at all whatsoever.
No, it's definitely us. Nah, clearly it's meat and potatoes as we're ever going to get with this.
Yeah.
Almost
So
too
jokes
much of a good
aside,
thing.
though. So remember when we were listening to the original and I called out a couple of things that are going on there, right? So there's the very iconic da-da-da-da-da line,
Mhm.
but that melody line that comes in halfway through in the winds is, it's sustained and slow, but it adds a lot to the original. You listen to the
Mhm.
original and that da-da-da-da-da is going on the whole time, and it doesn't have some slick electric guitar riffs and meat in there to keep it interesting. But one of the ways the original keeps it interesting is that they do add a lot of this other things that a long sustained melody that forces you to listen over the repeating thing and moving, and it allows it to move forward, but it takes a while to get there and lets you kind of extend it out a little bit. So that's one of the things that I think the original does really well, is it's got that contrast between a long sustained melody line, and the moving thing underneath it, the ostinato underneath.
Yeah, to
So I
me,
feel like this really missed that.
like the thing that's driving the remix here, like sometimes you have like a main instrument that is in the driver's seat.
Mhm.
For me, it's the drums. Like there, a lot of the communication about what changes are happening, the drums are communicating here. I'm just not feeling as much of their impact because they're like dynamically, they're almost all slamming somewhere between 119 and 127 on the velocities
Yeah.
the whole way through. Which there's some cool parts happening. Like when the hats come in and deliver, it almost feels like the rhythm shifts. So we're on the, instead of on the backbeat, we're now on the front beat. Like we're suddenly like double time kind of thing, and the whole rhythmic feel has shifted. That part is cool. It, all of the energy that it delivers is lost entirely by like getting mired in the soup of the minute and a half before it.
Yeah. Chris, I feel like energy management is your jam.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
This was repetitive. I hate to say it. I love how it sounds. There's great energy in it. The
Yeah. I
performances
like
are
the beef of the
awesome,
guitar. Yeah.
but it's the same thing over and over energetically. I mean, each part. I mean, not just the arpeggio that's constantly going from the beginning all the way to the end, but just the whole feel of it, as Seth just said, is the same all the way through. There's no breakdown. There needs to be a breakdown in there where maybe that arpeggio is not playing and the drums definitely aren't playing and something else is happening. It could be a bunch of sound effects, it could be some other little motif, something else, just to break it up. So for me, this is probably a no, just on repetition and just the constant feel of the energy.
Yeah. I mean, I've even just an opportunity to change a key, part
Mhm.
of the way through or something like that to give it a little bit of an injection. That would have been me. So I'm curious about this. Can you zoom out enough that we can see the whole waveform in a row? Is there any breaks? Are there any breaks?
Mm-mm.
I didn't hear or feel any.
Which it's this second one right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
there's at the 2 minute mark, there's a spot where it comes back a little bit.
yeah.
But I'm
I
not
think
even
that's
worried
when it
about
drops
the
to just the
sausage.
drums.
Yeah. I mean, like we listen to a lot of tracks that are pretty straight line, but the nature of, that's more the nature of the mastering than it is like the actual things that are going on. I feel like lacking, like not having any point where we're coming down. You have to plan your entire track if you're going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that at that point you're looking at post rock or something like that where it's that extended build. And that's not really what's going on here. There is some really, we're all just kind of shitting on this and there's no compliment sandwich, but like there's some really hip stuff here, right? Like when that guitar came in, every single person in the channel was like, "Yeah, buddy." Like we all really liked that. And honestly, I thought that the initial, like some of the synth choices and stuff, there's some really funky like tones that were used for some of the electronic instruments that I really liked. I just felt like the drums were balanced and velocitized for the heavy part, but then we used them over like a synth, and that's not going to work quite as well. But I liked a lot of what they were doing. Like I thought a lot of what they were doing is cool. It just maybe we need some breaks in there.
Yep, the arrangement is the problem.
Josh?
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly. There's some really interesting sounds in here, electronically. The guitars and the bass, the two recorded elements, probably the highlight of this submission. In terms of the performance, what they're offering to the track, but the lack of humanization in the drums, and I don't just mean like strictly locked to the grid. I mean like no velocity humanization. Everything's full on the whole time. That's a huge detractor. The lack of arrangement dynamics is a big detractor for it. Ultimately, there's a good bass here, but this is going to need a lot of work before we can post this one.
So here's a question I'll ask. One of the things we talk about a lot is like the payoff. Like we got to the point where we wanted to get. Is there a payoff in this track for you guys? For
like
judges?
a minute and a half in when the guitars hit and it plateaus immediately
and
following.
That's where it is. And that's where we go. So I mentioned a line before that Chemo has a couple times said that he liked, but it felt like 3 minutes of music, but it was 5 minutes.
Like over 5 minutes of bread, yeah.
Yeah, the Hobbit joke.
I was feeling like that, but like it was almost too long with all of the energy it had.
So this is a good example of less is more. We talked about in the previous submission how it was really good that the big payoff was only like 30 seconds long, as opposed to being 2 minutes of just reveling in it. There's times for 2 minutes of just reveling in a sonic awesome, and there's times for making it much less. I feel like you could probably pull a minute and a half off of this and make a tighter submission just right there, just by doing that.
Or just take that minute and a half in the middle area and sort of strip it back. I mean, if this is all stemmed out, all you have to do is mute some of the stems literally and let something simple play for a long time and then gradually build back up to the big.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be impossible to do.
Right.
Well, I can understand the idea of just going all in with the metal. Sometimes changing the textures would be more than good to end up shaking things up for the listener's attention. I mean, we have too much of a payoff, like as Strong Bad once said, too much of the great thing is an awesome thing, but too much of an awesome thing is really stupid and dumb. I mean, yeah, I had to bring in a Homestar reference somewhere, but the point is that we could have done like with like an acoustic breakdown somewhere that still keeps their
just got to go somewhere, right? Like we got to go somewhere.
Absolutely,
and we're just not. So cool. Well, let's do one more listen.
There's one other element that we touched on in the chat that I think is worth bringing back up, especially for the second listen. There's something about the LFO happening on the synth, like if it's controlling the pan or something that's happening either with the phase, it gets a little strange in some parts where it's like clashing and rubbing rhythmically, not necessarily like harmonically. And that might be something to look at as well. It's eating up a lot of like dynamic space and like room, and then it grabs attention in a way that it shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's do one more listen, and if you want to call that out when you hear it right there, that would be good feedback stuff.
Right here. wish more of the track followed how the bass was doing that, like slam that hit. That's a fucking vibe.
At first, I wasn't sure if this track had a payoff. That first payoff
There
is when
is-
the guitar comes in. That second one is the ending. I think we just
Yeah, that bass line when it comes in is
Yeah.
like it's got some meat to it.
When the
Yeah.
bass is in there, like, and it's doing a melodic thing, yeah, more of that. Support more of that.
Felt
The-
like there's like so much of a disconnect between just like hearing the mid-tones and then the higher pitched elements, and then when the bass comes in, it only feels like finally we're starting to end up getting some full meat
Yeah,
added
yeah,
onto this
it's got like a
sandwich.
more range to it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in the track, so many details and additional this and that, and everything sounds like it's performed really, really well. But the repetition is just killing it for me. I think there needs
Yeah.
to be a section without drums, and definitely at least one section without the arpeggio.
Yep.
I'm gonna admit I liked it a lot better on the second time through.
That yeah.
But I don't think it's there. But
But it's
I
really, and it
got
seems
more
like
of it.
everything possible has been done to bring in just a lot of variation and different
Yeah.
feels and vibes. But it's impossible to really, really tell the story while you've got that arpeggio going the entire time and the drums going the entire time. They've got to go away for some section.
I understand from the submitted comments that this is your first submission to the site, and one piece of advice that I give to anyone who is starting out is to look out for humanization when you're doing programming. As of right now, your drums are head against the wall, up the extremes, all the way
Oh,
top
that was a
whack
dog.
volume wise. But you can just like go into the MIDI data and just tweak them, tweak the velocities, or even slight timings to give them more of a human feel to
Yeah.
it.
This did feel that's a good point. The timing especially. This was rigidly quantized. So giving it just a little bit of body to that would help out.
Part of giving it that body, like leaning into subtraction, right? In office hours, we used to talk about in a couple of different ways, like music in a sense is kind of like sculpting, right? Like oftentimes you have a block that's all your material, and then you start hacking away to make the shape. And sometimes you throw more on to hack back. You're on the second pass of hacking back. Like there's some rough edges here. There's some like places where, oh, I actually need more of a curve. I need more space. Lean heavier into where you're creating more of those syncopations or like adding rests. With the ending bass groove where it like holds the note and then steps it downwards, I would lean into some more of that stuff. Find ways to get the synth to say more with less. I agree with Chris about backing off like the synth in a couple of parts. Look at places where the drums can like be silent and then come back, because dynamically that has more impact for what you're looking for. Like everything else about it is like I'm cool with. I just want to hear less of the repetitiveness so that your payoffs pay off more.
Yeah. So LT told me to point this out in the actual audio, but I got rejected 13 times before I got a track through. Now, part of that was because I sucked ass, and part of it was because I like the smell of my own farts. But it also was that you are like a lot of it is just learning how to craft a track and learning where the energy goes and learning how to make a song that has a journey to it. You are so much farther along than anything I submitted at that point. So for sure, this is honestly, this is like I said, the second time through I liked it a lot more. This is closer than I would have said probably the first time through. I think that there's some cool stuff here, and just getting it, managing your energy a little bit more. However you want to do that, there's a variety of ways to do that don't necessarily involve putting in an acoustic break in the middle. Is going to make a lot more quality here.
Yeah, it should also be said that anyone's journey to make it onto the site can vary from one artist to the other. Some would absolutely get onto there with their first endeavor into VGM. Some would, like Brad ended up emphasizing, end up taking a long time to do so. And we had someone on the site keep on resubmitting the same track 20 times ish just before getting out there. I mean, looking
Poor
at
Audiomancer.
yeah, Audiomancer, yeah.
Audiomancer catching strays on the no-show.
Uh,
Well,
but
he's like an honorary member.
Yeah.
well, point is, if you end up just keeping going, taking in feedback, understanding how to keep on building your work, then you know exactly where you should aim for. Just keep using it to polish your craft, and one day you will be so happy to see your own work on the front page.
Cool. Thanks everybody for this one. All right.
In case
Next
anyone,
one.
in
Sorry.
case anyone is just joining in, that second track is a no.
Observe.
It was 10 submissions, 3 submissions.
was
I
10.
thought it was more. I thought it was more.
All right.
All right. So
Who's next?
next one up. Let's keep going with folks that are on the stream. Pipko, let's do the Final Fantasy VI. I can't be your ray of hope. Oh, April's here too. Fantastic.
And that one is Terrace theme?
Yes. Or Awakening. This is Awakening.
Awakening. The more
It's a more solemn variant on Terra's.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
there's like 3 different sources.
And the cutscene with it too. Yeah, give us that one.
Oh, I didn't scroll down enough. I'm sorry. So it's another world of beasts. It is Terra's theme and Awakening. I didn't scroll down enough. My mistake.
We're gonna duplicado the tab. We have not, Larry, at all plugged where folks should go on the forums or Discord for more feedback or help, which is a good time to do so. I won't do it while I'm typing because that's hard for me. So if someone would like to take this baton.
While we're batoning, responding to SlowlyCrushed, ostinato, the term I use there, that is a classical music term for a repeated pattern, usually a bass pattern, that's used over and over underneath a variety of things going on over the top of it. So that original track, which has that the entire time, and there's all sorts of noodly bits going on over the top of it. You know, we got ramen all over the place. Like that would be a great example of an ostinato. That's like a perfect example of it.
Keep on referring to these things as riffs, but I guess context matters.
It's definitely ostinato is definitely a classical term.
Yeah, but that's when you understand what it means, it's one of those things that you see all over the place once you start, noticing it.
So rude that it won't stop.
All right, so which one are we doing first here? I think we should do Awakening first.
All right, and you want to unmute your streams, judges, or you won't hear.
Stream. This is just height of his powers.
Maximum SNES era Final Fantasy.
I love that
then they ended at the loop point. How nice of them.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good one. Let's do another World of Beasts. We don't need to do Terra's theme. We all know it.
We just heard it.
Yeah, we know, so
Yeah, exactly. That's why we don't need it.
I think that's so iconic at this point that Larry could do it in his sleep.
Seven, eight.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I love that backing Asuna part of the piano. This is one of my favorite songs off of the soundtrack.
No EDM version with this title yet. I am surprised with this one as well. It's just like it feels so atmospheric. It just tends to go more towards introspective kind of work. But I'm overseeing someone just throw all the inky bits out of the window.
I love that we're past the loop point and none of us care.
It the thing is that I thought it had a different A melody on the second repeat, but maybe it was the same one. I was just so enwrapped. Like
I don't know. I don't know any SNES era song that can just like change things up with two different variations. I think you're looking a bit too modern there, Seth.
Terra's theme does it, though. The C section only comes after they get through the B section a second time.
Oh, it does,
But-
yeah.
yeah,
But it is also the track for the opening cinematic, so...
yeah, they made
Okay.
more bandwidth
So-
for it.
Now let's so what's the big one to pull out of that, right? So you got the Asuna in the background, you got the descending line, da, 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 which is already kind of a bastardization of the earlier melody where it comes in. And Awakening, I mean that one jumps out. You know, you got Terra's theme and you got the actual melody line and the little plucks that are popping in and out there. So lot of ear candy. So what's the trick with this one? It's got to have something here that's not just relying on the quality of the original, right? Because these are outrageous melodies. So we need something that's not just relying on that to carry it.
Yeah, some reharm, some spicy rhythm, like crazy transition change ups. Yeah, like we
Well, I
want
mean, you can make a cover of this that would still be an OCR worthy track, but the trick is just making sure it's not relying explicitly on one of the better melodies in VGM. So
All right, let's get some Yaz with Pipko's I Can't Be Your Ray of Hope. And judges, this is your alert to mute the stream audio. Here we go.
That's nice. Okay. That's really hip. That's a really interesting take on this.
Well, first of all, I gotta point out the time signatures. We had Another World of Beasts in 7-8. We had Awakening Stroke Terror's theme in 4-4. All of them were converted into this swing 4-4
Yeah, like a
feel.
12-8, 4-4 feel.
Yeah,
I think it's
something
4-4.
like that,
Yeah.
yeah. And everything just fits. It's just like being molded into shape like this, and I especially like the counterpoint between the both sources near the start as well. It just knew that I was going to be in for something special with this one. I was just like, it just drew me in and just like felt the vibe right there. It's just what it was.
Yeah. I'm not the only one that heard distortion on the alto part, right?
Nah, I also heard it.
Yeah. So it sounded to me. I'm interested in seeing what April says that she did with her instrument, but it sounds to me like the pressure of the alto was over whatever condenser or whatever mic that she was using, and so it was maxing out the gain on the mic regardless of where it was set on the recording software. I have that all the time on my tenor when I play low. Yeah, so I'm a saxophonist as well, so I run into the same issue, April. So that's why I'm curious. So
Yeah, I don't think that I would like. I wouldn't know it immediately for that. It just does draw the ear a little bit more. I kind of forgot
there's a
that
lot of buzz in the alto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did kind
in the
of
first
forget
half,
about
it was very noticeable. It wasn't as much. Yeah, in the later half, it wasn't as noticeable.
Like as soon as the solo
Sounded to
section
me
started,
like they were too loud, though. The saxes were very loud and dry, and to me, they didn't sound like they were in the same room as the piano and the drums. The drums were really quiet, really way in the background, and very repetitive, despite a few little fills. And the sax I just think it wasn't mixed that well.
As it turned out with the recording of the saxophone, it was on an MXL 770, which is a very inexpensive condenser microphone. I'd like to say it does its job, but with any kind of recording equipment, there definitely is the delicacy of wanting to get the sounds the way you personally want it to. So there's the engineering is just so difficult from any kind of perspective.
Yeah. So taking a step back on that. So I have a 770 over there in my thing, and it's the same issue that I have with my when I recorded alto on it, is that the alto comes through pretty thin, and so I'm interested to see where it's being how she's using the mic and all that. But I did feel that I'm interested to see where it was, because if taking a step back from that, not hyper focusing on the saxophone, because it's not like I do that every time I hear a saxophone or something. But one thing I really appreciated was I felt that in general, the piano playing did a really good job of fleshing out the chord structure while also providing melodic and harmonic support of what was going on. That's actually really hard to do. Like, it's hard to clunk some funky chords every couple of beats while also still providing song structure. And I felt that piano did a really good job with that.
Yeah, like on revision, I do think that maybe the saxes are louder than the rest of the instruments, especially in the first half, in a way that they aren't in the second. But I really enjoyed being able to hear all of the voices like pretty clearly. Like I didn't hear them muddying each other up. I wasn't listening through it thinking, "Oh, I wish I could hear more of X," or "Y is not coming through." Like I'm hearing the balance in there. I might pay a little more attention to the drums on the next pass because I didn't hear anything about them that stood out, but I also wasn't paying enough attention. I was so enamored with the piano and the saxes and even the stand-up
Yeah, I
bass.
really appreciate the piano. And honestly, the tenor sax, like especially in the beginning when it came in with the little terabits, like, oh, that was so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as the drums go, Pipko got a lot of talk about the drums in the workshop, probably about a month before this was subbed. I have no complaints about their volume levels or the repetitiveness. We're not here for the drums. They're here to do what they're doing. I don't have any complaints with them. They don't get in the way. They keep the piece moving. There's the one big fill where it's important. They do their job.
Um,
Uno Mas through.
yeah, yeah, slowly crushed. I agree. There's some cool stuff that they're doing, but it's definitely not where it's ever drawing your ear. One thing I want to call out is that I don't feel the tenor solo works at all. I am not a jazz player. I was always much more of a classical player. Most of the time, it didn't sound like the tenor was playing. Like I liked the rhythms that were going on, but I really didn't feel that most of the sustained notes fit either with the way that we got there or where it was fitting within the chord. So maybe my mind will change the second time through or something, but it really didn't feel like most of the solo fit. Yeah. LT, it would be the part that you called original. It was the solo break in like the middle third of the song. Yeah, we're gonna do another replay.
I felt like it was broken away from the key of the song, but yeah, sure. Let me see what this is like.
I want to hear it again because I felt that I didn't feel like it felt weird with where it was. You know, it felt like where you play the head and then you do the solos and then you play the head again at the outro. Like that felt from a structural perspective, it sounded like it was fine. This might be a situation, and you know, like I said, I'm a classical player. The last time I recorded a song that had a solo in it, I asked the guy to write me a solo and I played the solo. So, like, this might be a situation where you want to write out some of your solo so that you're making sure you're getting all those color tones because there's a lot of funky stuff in the key, right? Making sure that you're nailing the color tones you want to land on so that there's not a situation where you land in a note and you're like, oh shit, and then you move a half step and then you go up a half step or something like that, trying to find where it needs to go. That might wind up helping.
Right.
Let's take another look and I'll see if I can like kind of be like, what's going on there? You know, just point once or twice. But I do want to hear it again to make sure I'm not missing something.
Rolling back. Might help if I actually rewind.
Oh, that's so good. love this little noodle right here. Very reminiscent of some of the stuff that we liked in the first source. That's one right there. That one. So some of these ones that just don't quite land.
I understand what it was trying to do with this offbeaty stuff, but actually going onto a downbeats more than it would during the solo section would have been so helpful here.
I feel like if the piano was pulled more forward here, the way the saxes were in the front, I would be less upset about how loud the saxes are. I say upset, but it's really like
Yeah.
nitpick. Yeah, to Larry's point, almost all of what I'm saying is nitpicks. Like, I don't have a deal breaker in this piece.
I'm so looking at it as a whole, I think that the form is great. I think it does a great job of taking a couple themes and not leaning on them extensively, but using them as something that is a vehicle to get a concept in here. The alto recording is for me a deal breaker because it's clearly distorting. You can hear the pressure, like it feels like it's too close to you, and that's not the mixing. That's there's too much on the part, like the horn's too close to the mic, and so it's maxing out the mic. Even though it's not overly loud within the mix, and I do feel that the tenor solo needs another take. I don't think that what's there is there's some stuff that just feels not super restful. So I would say that this is, for me, if I'm voting on this, I would say that this is a no because of the sax mixing. I think that they're too present. That's a fairly straightforward fix. The alto probably needs to be re-recorded. I love what it's saying. I just think you got to step 6 inches away from the mic and do the exact same thing, and it would be fine. And then the tenor solo's got some funky notes in there that I think that spending a little time writing out a little bit more of a solo and doing the same shape and just landing a little bit different would be all it would take. Like I love the vibe, right? Like we all agree that the feel is really hip.
Mm-hmm.
I do
And the piano playing is fantastic, and the tenor
Yes.
tone is fantastic. Like it's so good. I wish I sounded like that. Yeah, for me this would be a no.
Treatment of the sources is indeed fantastic. I already outlined some of the notational tricks that had already been done and the translation to both the genre and the swing feel. Though it still has its flaws for me. The tenor sax the solo was one of the first things that ended up sticking out. It's like it felt like it was just plastered on as opposed to just being there. I'm like all for being able to bring in a break right there, but to try and keep it more consistent with the notation is great. The Voodoo Queen in the chat did mention if it was being too noodly, and I'm like, if we're looking at jazz, if something is too noodly, then it would go on for far longer than it had
Yeah.
done so here. I think we can end up sussing that one. But I mean, I know it was trying to end up going for a very roomy or close knit chamber kind of vibe, but when the alto sax feels almost too tight for what it was and the consistent buzzing, then if there can't be another take, then at least some kind of touching up on Pipko's side could try to make it fit better with the other instrumentation. A touch of reverb, some EQ cuts to try and get rid of some of that buzz. This is
It's
like
the
the
waveform is
alternate.
deformed.
Yeah, it's like
Bev.
the waveform. Well, I mean, it's like an alternate idea in case the alto sax could not get a re-recording. But yeah, any way to fix that buzz, and this would have been like a very easy yes for me. But as of right now, this is a resubmit in my eyes.
Yeah, and to be clear, just to clarify my vote, I probably wouldn't pass this without a re-record of the alto, unless the other things were like drastically improved. The other two things that I called out, which was the tenor solo and the mixing, because that alto just, I mean, it sounds like there's distortion in the tone, so we wouldn't allow a flute or a bassoon or some other instrument playing something that was close to the mic. So like at the same time, I don't feel like we would do the same thing with the sax.
I think it'd be a
Right.
lot less noticeable if it wasn't so loud and also so dry.
That's
If
a
it
good
was
point.
mixed
Yeah,
better, you probably wouldn't notice that
as
as
much.
much,
Yeah,
but it's
that's
right
fair.
in your freaking face.
Gotta like
So
Brad Eaton the
I'm
bike
real
to get
borderline
checked
on this
point.
one. Like I could see it passing with, with a bunch of nitpicks, but I could also see it not passing. I mean, it does need to be mixed better for sure. Re-record, I don't know. I think if it was mixed better, it would sound better. It would feel better.
Josh?
Um, I'm gonna side with Larry here. And I'm listening on my usual headphone set. Like, definitely the recording of the alto sax is not ideal, and the mix is not ideal. But I'd still yes this one. I might be borderline. I'd still yes this one.
I knew
If
I
it
didn't want.
doesn't pass, I could definitely see, I could see your perspective on the feedback. This would definitely be better with another tenor sax take, and with a retake on the alto without it being distorted. But I like what we have, and judging what we have, I think it's good enough.
Okay. So what do we have? I think I was a no. I think Bev was a no. Seth, I don't remember what you said.
I'm a yes.
That was going to be a yes.
I'm in the same
Okay,
boat
good.
as Josh, although I don't think I would vote borderline. I think I would strongly yes this, even though could it be recorded better? Yes. Could the mix have adjustment? Yes. I think this is enough to pass our bar.
I think I'm probably a yes also, but I would definitely put those comments in my vote. And if the remixer agreed with any of that, I mean, there's always time to fix it even after it's been yesed.
Mhm.
If the remixer wants to do that.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm
Yeah, I mean that's why
probably
we
a
vote,
yes.
right?
I'm borderline,
But
but I'm probably a yes.
yeah, and I think this is a good reinforcement of why we don't, why it doesn't have to be unanimous, right? Like, we all have different things that we bring in and that we draw out of stuff. So,
Not enough sight.
What I miss?
Oh, I see you.
Hema, what do you think
Okay.
about that track? Yes or no?
I don't know. I don't know which track you're talking about.
Good. I'm gonna kick you. No. So we're good. I didn't even do it.
It was probably his internet.
Cinema.
His ISP absolutely hates him sometimes.
Cinema.
Yeah. So on that one, we're split, just like the last. I'm gonna stop calling you Pipko Fanfare and start calling you Splitmo Fanfare, because it's just like the last one that we had from you too.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and to be clear, questions I had, April, about the saxophone stuff. I that tenor sound was fantastic. Like that, I wish I sounded like that. That tone is incredible. When the melody came in that first section, for me it was just the some of the notes that came in during the solo. So
Was it the Final Fantasy VI one you guys were talking
Yeah.
about? Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard the final yet, but I heard the earlier ones where it was still being worked on. So I don't know what the final sound quality is, but I would say arrangement, yes. But I don't know what the final master was.
Yeah.
And mix.
Yeah, the so you can definitely take a look at that one here because we're all going to get our votes in there at some point here, anyways, and then we'll have like Wes and some of them come in. So cool.
Right. For everyone
Yeah,
tuning in, this is a split decision.
Yeah, and Dark Sword, to your point, let's be real. I've got a different approach to that than you, especially because of what I play, right? So that's that's where that comes in. It's again, I love what it played. I just felt that the distortion was a little much. So yeah, this will go onto the panel to get votes from the folks that weren't able to make it, Pipko. So Wake,
I
because he's a different time zone.
I understand that Pipko had been given the nickname of Split Co because of all of the different things going on, but Split's decisions on the panel can happen to anyone. It happened to me a good
I got one last year, like so.
I have one on the panel right now.
I had a lot very early on in my submissions to OCR. Two of them ended up passing as yeses before getting thrown into the rejection bin as well. So it goes to show how difficult that splits would end up being for anyone to solve. But it's like I said earlier, taking in what you feel is the most actionable feedback to fix the most crucial flaws are what's needed to end up going forward. And if this track does end up going into rejections as opposed to getting posted, then I am very confident there will be a very actionable approach to get it up there. I love the vibe, like I've been saying.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just want to see it in the best condition that it needs to be for the site.
Cool. Okay, so this is probably going to wind up going to split. It'll get pinned, and I'll harass everybody to get after it.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving. Okay, I'm gonna find one. Let's do. Heat's been here this entire time, slamming it up. So let's continue to ignore them and move on to a different song. Let's do no. Yeah, let's do the Chrono Cross track because that's a single source track and it's easy to pull up.
Oof.
Y'all knew it was coming.
Yeah, why didn't you use the Roblox oof? I mean, that seems like appropriate too.
I don't have my soundboard rebuilt on my Stream Deck, so
He has literally a button, and the button just makes his voice sexy. So
Dark Sword brings up a great point, though. We also can't use Roblox oof, or we're going to hear from Tommy Tallarico.
Yeah, Tommy, if you can hear this, fuck you. Wait. Fuck you.
Damn.
And there goes all the ad money we weren't getting anyway.
So this is another world. This is sailing another world. Wow, this is. Heat, you're on your way to your work. I'm really glad that we waited.
No, we don't like Tommy Tallarico because he's a liar anyway. God, I guess we'll do the 1 hour extended and just stop when it hits the loop point.
And just wait until he gets to work.
Damn.
I'm such a big
And then it
fan of
switches.
guitar slideys.
Yeah, there's so much work that was done with the sound chip to make it be real. But also this section's really hip too, just how different it is from the rest of it. Okay, cool.
That is such a great track.
It really is. Well, it's 3 instruments. Like,
Simple, easy. Also one that I was not actually familiar with.
Was that self-descriptive, Seth? Simple and easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I
gonna
do,
demote you.
It's the way
cook.
that you're making me feel tonight.
That's simple and
I
clean.
gotta acknowledge the Kingdom Hearts in the chat.
Yeah. All right. Let's listen to this future no.
So out of pocket. Okay, so this is from
Make
Heat.
sure that you mute yourself, judges.
Yes, this is your warning, judges, to mute yourselves and the stream audio. This is from Heat, Sailing Away from Home. Let me make sure I'm on beat 1. Here we go.
There's also not a lot of editing. Yeah.
I apologize to everyone on Sonobus because that definitely clipped the output on the big, like, the giant peak on the waveform.
The big whoosh.
I didn't see it
It
in
was like
span.
Is that what
explosion.
happened?
I don't know if you guys had a chance to hear Zyko's mix that's got an explosion in it, but the first version of it literally just clips out for like a full second.
Talking of which, I just noticed in your screen share, Seth,
Mhm.
where it says peak and clippings,
Mhm.
we ended up with 5 of them.
Ye-
Is this a sign that it would end up needing some headroom being brought down?
Maybe because I haven't been resetting span between tracks, so I don't know if that's from this track specifically. So
Ooh.
I'll reset it before we start, and then we can definitely double check.
Yeah. So, one of the things I want to call out here. So we all, we all sat and listened to that. What was added to this that wasn't in the original, like
Lots
MIDI?
and lots of effects.
Lots of percussion and
Mhm.
lots of vocal
Vocal packs.
layers. What arrangement wise was added to this that wasn't the original AB format with the instruments, similar instruments doing similar things to the original?
There's a bridge.
And
I
what is the
don't even
bridge?
think there wasn't even a bridge. It was
Like
like I
second,
heard
third, or 2/3. About 2/3 of the way through the song, there was one added there. I don't
I
remember
don't
what the
know.
time was.
I mean, textures would end up giving us a false sense of security, but it's still 3 renditions of the source with not really any reprieve whatsoever.
There were a few extra, so there was a few, at least the first time around. I noticed a few things from a chord perspective that were a little funky and added in. But as a whole, remember what I said about the Final Fantasy VI one, where I was like, don't get distracted by how good this source is? I feel like that's what happened here. I feel like this is the source with some cool shit added on top.
Yeah.
Which, like, who doesn't like sprinkles? But like at the same time, I don't feel like there was a lot of expansion. It correct LT. It was a very melodically conservative arrangement. My statement is I don't know that it stood out.
Here's the thing though, we've also ended up like hearing similar um theme and variation loops from particularly Rebecca Tripp when it comes to copy pasting sources like this. But in comparison to the source that we've heard here, there tends to be more being done with the shaping of at least notation in the source material as opposed to just letting the source just play out and add the After Effects on top. So I mean that just like comes to mind. It's like that one FF4 track I'm just like trying to think was like Palom and Polym's Fever or something like this. I'm trying to remember what it was. Let me Google it.
Emo.
Seth, can you zoom out of the track so I can see it, the whole waveform as a whole?
Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me
I
pull.
wondered if somebody was going to ask this.
I'm feeling kind of flat in terms of dynamics. We did get some textural change, but it pretty much stayed the same
Just got to,
throughout.
I
yeah,
felt
it
that
just
way
got to
too.
a point and stayed there. Yeah. I wondered if
felt
somebody
that
was
way
going to
too.
call this one out.
Yeah. Seth,
Yep.
you
Oh,
can
I figured
also zoom out
I
in
picked
the edit window. You don't have to go to the timeline.
Yeah, I
Thank-
figured out the Rebecca Tripp FF4 track with comparing it to Streets of Meridia. In a similar thing, she went through the source 4 times, which to a listener perspective can be extremely tiring, but what she did differently was at least acknowledging the source and giving it at least some textural and notational changes with each different loop. So that was the comparison that I wanted to end up drawing to how borderline we can get with theme and variations with this.
I don't mind that it takes like a full minute and a half to get to where it's going. I'm in alignment here with Hemo about like, yeah, like I'm looking at that waveform build, but I don't actually feel like it got me anywhere. I felt distracted by a lot of like when we brought up the hats coming in, like I like the idea of what the hats were doing, but the execution of it, I'm like, this isn't working for what's happening here. There's a bunch of those elements on top of like really pretty vocal element, interesting percussive, like this is it's very square peg round
Yeah,
hole.
there's some cool layers, right? Like we agree the percussion, especially in that first minute. There's
Mhm.
there's some fun stuff there. And I feel like sometimes heat tracks the vocal thing is kind of stapled on. I didn't feel that was the case here. I actually felt that the vocal little things actually fit what was going on, and that was cool.
The vocal was
But
gorgeous, but it was too
yeah, I
loud.
felt it really worked.
It needed to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
pushed back, and I felt like the leads were a little bit buried. They're very gentle little bells leading, and that they were a
yeah.
little too quiet, and the vox was a little too loud by comparison. I think a lot of this can be fixed with mixing.
A
Yeah.
lot of this can be
But
fixed with
I don't
mixing.
feel that there's enough arrangement at all.
It wouldn't have hurt to change the lead up to pass it between different instruments at times. Not saying that it was a problem, but it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Um,
Even if the arrangement did get changed up, I felt like the overheads on the mixing definitely needs to get brought down because it felt like they were way too dominating over the rest of the instruments. I know that Larry brought up the claps, and I'd like to combine them with the overheads when it comes to a tone comparison. But when I want to hear more punch brought in from the at least the kick and the snare, it just it, I mean,
now, Rexy,
it's just really what I want. Just a more balanced mix as a whole.
yeah. Now, just to
Yeah.
clarify, when you say overheads, what do you mean by that?
The cymbals were the things that ended up immediately drawing my eye. The hi hats, the rides, the stuff at the top of the kit when you end up miking that up,
Gotcha.
and I also ended up bringing in the claps as well because it's sharing the same frequency space as that particular aspect of the kit.
Gotcha. I will agree with you on that on the broad strokes. As far as the other stuff that would be like in the overhead mics, um, to get into the weeds here, I would not say the crash cymbals are too loud, but there are definitely times where the hi hat gets too loud.
The hi hat is
Um,
definitely a dead ringer.
yeah, both for the mix as a whole and for the internal mix, if you will, for the drums. In the moments where the hi hats are coming up in volume, that's when you actually would want more of the kick and snare coming up, if not in volume, with the velocities. Um, it's just not something that somebody who's got time behind the kit would be doing realistically. Sorry, I'm going in the weeds on drums, just like Prophetic went in the weeds on the saxophones on the previous track. There's a sort of internal mixing that every musician will do when they're playing their instrument to try and keep things relatively balanced. And so not only is it not working from a mix perspective when the hi-hats come too high in volume, it's just not something a live drummer would do. Hey, now, my critique on the drums for the FF7 track was not that they were bad, just that they're not human. I actually did like what they were saying, it just wasn't being said realistically.
Can we hear the intro or like the first like minute and a half again?
I definitely want
Well,
to roll
I'd
it
like to
back.
do a re-listen no matter what.
Mhm.
Let's do
Okay.
re-listen for the whole thing.
And here we go.
Yeah, Larry, agree. I love that sound stage right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a regular appearer at open source as well?
Mm-mm.
What am I on about? Oh, yeah. I can confirm it. The peak was there.
And also that hit comes about a beat and a half too late.
Yeah, so Dark posted in the chat that he said it was a no based on arrangement alone because he felt it was very conservative, and he also said he didn't like the vocals and that they didn't add as much. I still say there's no arrangement. There isn't one.
I mean, I
I'm-
said the same thing when bringing up the Rebecca Trip track that was assessed 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That is an example of handling themes and variations delicately enough to at least make it borderline. So that's usually my first port of call as to when us listening over a source and thinking, did it do enough to change? In this case, after more than enough listens, and in fact the two that we've had here, it's just 3 variations with just drones piled up over the top. So that's a bit too much sprinkles on my ice cream right there, unfortunately. I would definitely prefer some chocolate dip or raspberry sauce or anything like that. It needs more arrangement.
Can we run through the source again, just briefly? Doesn't even have to be the whole thing, but I mean,
Yeah,
or I
it's
could
like
do it.
40
I could do it.
seconds.
Okay.
It's quick. really is the same.
That was the loop, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's
Mhm.
enough. Yeah, it's too conservative.
You see what I mean, Chris? It's the
Mhm.
same thing.
It is. And I'm pretty lenient with that. I mean,
Yeah, you're way
if
more
it's
than me.
different at all, I'm pretty lenient, but I think in this case it's too conservative.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think that it's like every part of what's in here. Like the drums are obviously an addition on top
Yeah.
of it, but they're not doing enough to say like they're not bringing more to the form. I'm also a no on this for basically all of the same reasons that have been listed. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think learn.
I think. So I was just gonna say that I think Chris's point. She mentioned a couple times in the chat, but she pointed out, and this is, of course, this is something that Chris noticed and brought up right away because she's so good at this stuff. But like the bells don't carry anything. That lead, that bell tone, like it's a cool tone to use at the point of attack for the melody line, but they don't carry anything. They're just there. So there's not really anything that's carrying the melody line through a lot of those sections. You're hearing the little clink from the bells, but nothing that's
Mhm.
like bringing it through there. And
Yeah, so
especially
it's
with
more
something
like
that is draped in reverb like this, there needs to be something that's sustained.
just a wispy soundscape rather than a lead with a backing.
Mhm. They're
Yeah.
I don't mind the bells themselves. I feel like they're better for counterpoint with something else
Yeah.
taking a
Oh,
statement.
they'd be
Agreed.
amazing
Yeah,
at
the
a
bells can
counterpoint thing.
stay. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
They can
like the
either
tone.
layer or counter melody.
Yeah. The
Tostinato.
Tostinato. Thanks, Shark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the classical or orchestral world, it's like a slam dunk layering like bells with flute, or the first violins, something else that's going to be within an octave or so of that, and just really provide a body for those transients. From
Yeah.
at least from a production perspective, that's definitely a great way to work with that. But yeah, the biggest thing holding this back is the arrangement. There's too much source and not enough heat here. We need more heat. And so for that, I'd be a no.
Even just
Josh,
varying the lead
that was a
melody.
me. That's the thing that I do where I say it needs more of the person and less of the writer. That's so fun.
It
It's
sticks.
like you're my kid.
That stuff lands.
Yeah.
When you
number
need a
one,
home
you're
run.
right, and number two, it sounds good.
Yeah, no, that's it makes me sound way cooler than I am. So
Don't
Even
fight
just
it,
writing
bro.
some of the lead work, if some of it was
just
made
mixing
more
it up.
original, just make it different and make
Yeah,
it
Dark Sword
with
was
it with
talking
a
about
with
that in
a
the chat. Yeah,
thicker sound,
thicker.
that would do it.
But seriously, DS was talking about that in the chat too. Just more, mix it up. Do something else with the, change the chords underneath. That's the easy one I always go to, right? Like you're playing it through, great. Go to the minor, done. That was easy. Do a 1 flat 6 flat 7 1 progression. Everything fits under that progression. Like just do something different for a little while. But it really does feel like it was just MIDI percussion.
Oh, I
So.
see what you're trying to do, SlowlyCrushed. Ba 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 ba.
Go listen to the Baba Yetu remix that Tosser and I did. It's like the most obvious one in the entire
Nope.
backlog.
Dark Sword is not having the shot.
You got to keep that filth out of there. Do not sully your arrangement further.
All right, cool. So I think we're mostly centered on this one. Heat. I think this is probably a
No.
So kick rocks. All right,
Ba-da-bam-bam.
somebody boot him.
Yeah.
Keep
Let's move
cooking
to
on
the
this
next
one, man.
Let's do one.
We do have Minus World in the
Let's-
chat.
I was gonna say let's do the Minus World one, the Xenoblade one, because that's a freaking ridiculous original. Plus, we got a bunch of funny people in here. We got Xander Plute on the flute. We got Ronald Alphabet Soup on the bass guitar. We got Cyril on lead vocals. So
Yeah, not Ronald, Roland.
Roland, whatever. I can't read. Reading's for
I know.
chumps.
That's why I'm correcting you.
That's why we play music. What is the source again?
That's, the source is Xenoblade Chronicles X, Noctilium Day, Noctilium Night.
It's both. Okay. So let me just write Noctilium.
Would you like me to give you the link so you can just?
Mm-hmm.
It's just called Noctilium on here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 5 minutes and 30 seconds long.
This one.
That's that. It's that one right there. Yeah, the one with the crop.
And then the night is the other one.
It's only that link.
Oh.
It must be both parts of it. Yeah. See the in the description there of that third one. It says
Pop
that
together.
halfway through it switches to the other one.
Yeah, sick. Absolutely sick. All right. If you have not unmuted your stream audio, now is your opportunity.
I just went and muted it because you told me, and then I realized I muted it.
No. and not a loot point to be found.
Oh my gosh, it's still going. Whatever that wah funkiness thing
There's one thing that I should have done prior to the stream. I should have listened to the source a few more times and tried to identify how the day and night variations work.
Yeah, like raise your hand if you actually spent the whole time listening to the melody and not just really enjoying the groove. Cause like, I couldn't sing that melody back to you right now. I just listened to the groove the whole time.
I'm trying to remember how that that vocal went, and I cannot remember.
That was pretty accurate, guys. Pretty accurate.
We're not just haters. I was so enamored by slap bass that I kind of my brain stopped working.
I was enamored by watching Seth pretend to play slap bass.
Yeah.
I was too.
it-
So what is
It's 3 a.m.
Sawano-san catching strays now?
It's 3 a.m. where I am at, so of course my brain stopped working a little while ago.
Oof.
All right, this might be the finale. You might want to play the beginning of the source again. Yeah, probably one more round into there for the ostinato. For the Josh Donato. We got it? We need more? What you think?
I think we're good.
Austin Otto and the repeating patterns. Sick. We got some Minus World coming up. Judges, this is your cue to remute the stream audio. And this is Noctilium XCX. Is that the actual name of the track? Or is that just the name of the master?
No, it's a Forest in the Night.
Copy. Forest in the Night. Let me write that in my notes.
I appreciate that he specifically called out that he's pissed that he placed behind Chemo's track.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to take my 14th place and sit in the corner. Anyway, on to Forest in the Night by Minus
It
World.
was a high 14th. Let's hear it. Ah, no ending. What the fuck?
You know
Yeah.
what you were saying
Hey,
about
where's the
payoff?
ending?
Mm-hmm.
You know what you,
I
It's like
just
the
got kicked
same
to the
response
curb.
every time.
you know
I
what
got
you
kicked
were
out of a
saying.
limousine right to the curb.
That's right.
Ride's over. Get the hell out.
No.
You know what you were saying about payoffs earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Cyril was the payoff.
Yeah. And it was in the right spot of the track. I do think that a more I want to say developed ending. The abrupt ending works, I think, in the style, but I would love to have had like more of a die down.
Yeah, I'm in the same place. There's a
Even just
clear
an
ending
extended note.
process. Yeah, there's a clear ending process. I understand why he dropped. Personally, I wish he hadn't done that, so I'm gonna know it. No, but
It does
You know what's really
reinforce me
impressive here?
wanting to play it again. What's really impressive?
The almost so like the second half of the song is all big the whole way, yet it still keeps that energy high and pumping the whole way up until the end. It's so hard to do that for
so
that
so
amount
let's
of
take a
time.
step back there. That's a really good point, Chris. So we're gonna go back and shit on the other track that we heard earlier some more. No, we're not. But so looking at it from a comparative standpoint, what makes this one work when the Ostinato Final Fantasy VII track didn't work?
He makes a lot of changes still. Like the
Mm.
parts
There's
are
still a lot
changing.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is like
agree.
instrument changes, there's variations in like the parts, the rhythms, just everything keeps changing even though the dynamic is high.
It also like tactically deployed where those changes were going to be. Like they're executed like, okay, cool, acoustic break, vocal at the end for big payoff. We're going to tease the vocal in the middle, drop. Like there are tactically deployed pauses and like shifts in the field to maintain.
Cool. So there's a lot of glam on this one, right? Like it feels good. It feels like a fun track. It's Minus World. What do you expect? Like
Mhm.
it's a well crafted scope. And like DS is saying in the chat right there, right? Like there's a lot of push and pull to it. There's not like 2 minutes in a row that's all the same thing. It's big and then it's down for a little bit and then it's big again and then it comes back to medium and then it goes down. So there's a lot of movement. So what's the thing we as judges always got to watch out for on the really glam tracks?
That we're still providing objective critique and not just fawning all over it.
Right. Yeah. So source usage, right? Like actual critiques on the track. We got to make sure that we're still looking at that. So from a
Mhm.
source usage perspective, I think there's enough here. You know, there's a lot of melodic approach to this. But at the same time, we still want to take a step back. Is there enough? Is it just the melody gets slapped in a couple places? Is this more of a cover or is there enough stuff on here that we're calling this to be an arrangement?
It felt really conservative to me. It felt really awesome and lots of variation and detail, and the performances are just off the charts good.
Up
But it's
until,
conservative as all get out.
up
Yes,
until
it
about 2
is.
minutes.
Yeah,
There
Say
was a
that again,
change about
Chris.
there were, up until about like 2 minutes it was pretty close.
the back half does
Yes.
vary up the AB feel more than the front half does, but it does take 2 minutes to get there. That's true.
Also, I personally will need more listens to the source because that's a long source. That's the first time I've heard the source. Like I need to
Same.
digest it more.
I
So
think we
Same.
should.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that it's better off putting the night variation out of the window and then just focusing on what the day one is like, because that's just like more than enough
There's
feel for what it needs.
there's a full breakdown in the submission. Hey,
and
chat.
that's why I love
This is
Minus
the
World.
this is a thing that we want every time. If you don't have a very straightforward and obvious approach to your track and you mix it up even a little bit, make it easier on us. It makes it easier for us to then reject you. Like put the put a breakdown of what you're gonna do in every track. It makes it so much easier to
Mhm.
approach. So there is a full he breaks down A, B, C, D for both daytime and nighttime, and then shows where it's used. So I'm not super concerned about source usage on this one, but I agree very much that the way that he puts stuff together, it's not as it feels similar because day and night are both going to be very similar tracks. Yeah, exactly,
So-
Zach. You got it. Yeah.
Nah, that doesn't make it
You-
harder. It just makes us take longer to reject you.
You can make
Yeah.
it as confusing as you want as long as you let us know where you actually put the source so we can actually confirm it.
Yeah, so there is a full breakdown. So when we as judges go back and take a look at this, we're going to be able to do that evaluation on our own. We don't necessarily have to do it here because it's already, we're 2.5 hours in. But I'm not super concerned about it. But I very much agree that at least the 2 minutes are really close. So
I disagree. I don't think it's that close. There are textural differences between the daytime and nighttime themes, and even within the first 2 minutes, there is a noticeable textural shift into the nighttime that comes within the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. No, and I'm not saying it's not there. I am noting that. So my statement is more for each chunk that's used from each song, from each track or whatever, they are fairly close to what's in the original. Now it might be that it's like daytime part A here and then nighttime part B here. So there's arrangement in the way it's pieced together. And I agree with what VQ says, where the instrumentation is much more expansive than the original. But at the same time, I do agree that there's a lot that sounds a lot like it does in the original track. So I don't think that it's a deal breaker, but I think it's something you want to call out. And even on the glam tracks, right? Like we got to take a look at them. How many of these did we throw at you and at Seth and Josh when you guys were doing your testing? Like we put one out there that sounded great, but was very conservative for a reason. So
That's true.
There were at
That's very
least
true.
2, probably 3.
yeah, I had picked out 2. So
Great text tone.
Did somebody
Thank
just
you.
discover something?
Yeah, that was me.
but so well, of course it's a Zelda sound. But so so we agree though that from a song perspective, this one sounds pretty fun, right? Like
Mhm.
we like the way
That's
it sounds.
amazing.
Yeah. Are there any specific critiques that people noticed as we were going through here about the execution?
I think
Separate from the arrangement.
guitar tone wise, I think it is a little less. It has a little less of an edge than I would expect given the style. They're a little more toned down, especially like compared to how much the bass is going, and it's possible because you want that balance of like keeping that nice bright kanky bass tone in there. The guitar has to give a little something up. I feel like there's a little bit of edge lost. It's nothing in the face of the rest of the arrangement, but that would be one of my nitpicks, is that I feel like the guitar isn't as like in your face as it could be given how stylistically the rest of the track is going.
Yeah, I felt it was a little more mainstream. Yeah. That kind of that kind of mainstream pad sound that you get out of it, as opposed to when you got like a more unique approach.
How do we feel about the low end compared to the kick?
It's not as easy to hear over Sound Bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to listen in Cubase and give that a proper listen on my setup.
Yeah.
What were you at there, Chris?
Maybe a little bit of stepping on toes, but I need to listen better again. Meaning like, they're close together and, maybe a little bit of mud, but, like what Chris said, need a better listen again.
Generally, first impression is it sounded amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It has a lot of glam, right? So we all got starry eyes. I mean, all of us were jamming out.
If anything, I think I have a similar critique on the drum humanizing as to the Final Fantasy VII track, but to a much lesser extent. There's still some inhumanness here, but it's much less egregious. Definitely nitpick territory there.
Nice work.
Let's take a listen to it again.
Uno mas, one more through. I feel better about the ending on the second listen.
Yeah, agree.
And it wasn't
There
even
is
like
more of a shape.
I don't.
it wasn't like.
Understand
Go ahead, Roxy.
I mean, understanding how Minus World broke up the arrangement just by going by the list, I can understand the overall flow of this one. It's not one of those tracks that is seen as too conservative to the point of just taking ideas and just changing up the instruments. Instead, things are at least spliced to make it at least feel like Minus World is just mixing them both up together. And what is everyone doing in the chats?
We're
What are
exhausted,
you
and I
doing?
said your name wrong, and they won't let it go.
I see what you're doing there. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, there was too much of a distraction. But even if I do end up giving the source some clear lessons just for confirmation, I do feel that Minus World has just made the entire arrangement on point. And even without having to home in with like a visualizer on EQs or whatever this is, it sounds clear on my setup. So hard to really find anything that is even close to a deal breaker with this one. Also, this
Yeah,
what
but
are you
yes, let's get this
doing?
one
What are
out of
you
here.
doing?
I'm
Yeah,
still
so I
waiting for
think we all like it, and
Dark
so the
Sword.
question is just, so what's the thing we gotta confirm as judges, right? So we probably wanna listen to it not on a stream just to make sure there's not any obvious like drum mixing thing that's just getting cut off because, I don't know, Seth's stream sucks or something. But
Right.
also, we probably also wanna
Oops.
just go through
Sorry.
and do our own source eval just to make sure that the things he sent over make sense and they're not just, something he threw in ChatGPT to make it look like it was something. But yeah, obviously this sounds really good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just to parrot what DS said in the chat, we should do a pass on the source to verify stuff, but this does really feel like a slam dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we got through 5 tracks so far.
Of the 8,
And
yes.
we're coming up on, yeah, we're coming up on time. I think we had said that 11 Eastern was going to be our time. So I think it's probably a good idea for us to stop here so that we don't have the next one wind up being something that takes an hour or something like that, because I would hate all of you.
Yeah, this is a good time for Q&A. We have some time.
That's a great point. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, good. I didn't want any. No, but does anybody have any questions about some of the process that we've been doing, about any of the concepts of what we're doing here?
Do you hate us more now? Or less?
This isn't Twitch, so we don't have first or last time chatters. Like, feel free to get in there.
Oh, Flurry has a great
Flurry
question.
has a great question. I'm gonna ask Seth or Josh to take that one.
Yeah. So the question is, if you remix but can't produce, is it normal to get help from someone? Absolutely. Just like in any other industry, you do not necessarily have to be a generalist here. There are a number of, without getting too far in the weeds here, there are a number of different things that require somebody with a specialized skill set, and it is often very overwhelming to have one person take on all of that. So if you've got great arrangement ideas, but don't necessarily have good production chops, it's never a bad idea to find somebody to help produce your work. If you can produce things well, but have trouble writing, find somebody who's good with writing and pair up. If you know somebody who plays instruments well and you want folks to play on your track, it's okay to find them. Collaboration can only make your stuff better.
I want to add as a counterpoint, because there is a point of view. I'm an avid collabor. All I do is collab with Josh on literally everything I do. Like,
that's the point of pixels and paradiddles, though.
100%. And I will collab with other people. There is a certain viewpoint and there's a certain personality that is like, it doesn't feel earned if I don't do it myself. It's not wrong to have that point of view. It will get in the way
But
of
also
you
fire
working
that
with
point
someone.
of view into the sun.
Yes. Like you can load it in a cannon
Collabing
and
is the way
fire
to
it.
get better, period.
Mm-hmm. Like
Yeah, I
Collabing
mean,
is the way forward.
Chimp's like the definition of this, right? Like she's worked with most of us. So
Yeah, those who will work with me, some of you won't. Yes, I'm looking at you, Brad. You're very much a I'll do it myself guy.
yeah, well, it's because I absolutely am the guy who's like, dadgummit, I'm gonna do it myself this time, and then I shit the bed, and then I'm like, well, I made my bed, now I'm gonna sleep in it. So
in
But
fairness,
just collab. Collab is the way forward. It really is.
And
And
in-
it's fun.
yes,
it is fun.
In
I agree.
fairness, there's a setup and like a system and a process to collabing too. Like it's easy for us to be like, just go out there and work with people. I get the point of view of I would rather do it myself. Like if you take the steps to like, how do I communicate all of these changes in exactly the order that makes sense for another person? Get halfway through that process and go, I should just do it. Like now that I've thought about it, I should just do it. Like there's that will pull you away from moving toward working with another person. Like that is a thing that you got to go through. Like trying to figure out how to explain what you're looking for to someone else if you are a musician or are not a musician to the person who's the opposite of that point of view. That's also difficult. That's like language you have to learn to communicate. It's worth learning. It's worth developing. But like these are things that will be a roadblock that you'll encounter. And just do it anyway. Get out there, put yourself out there, fall off the horse, make a lot of mistakes and make them really fast, and then iterate on top of it.
Dark Sword does bring up an interesting counterpoint. Most of his stuff is solo, so he doesn't know what we're on about with this whole collaboration thing.
He
And
also started remixing in like 1950, so like, it's not our fault that they didn't have the internet back then.
Did dark sax exist back then,
maybe.
or was it real sax?
Damn. So I mean, there's a world where you can do everything by yourself, and you can, like, obviously there are folks in the community who have successful solo efforts. All I'm trying to say is that you don't need to be so hard on yourself and think that if you can't do it by yourself, you can't do it. There's no shame in finding someone else to help you shore up the things that you don't have as great as skills in.
Cool. We beat that question to the ground.
Yep.
Does
Also-
anybody else have any other? Does anybody else have any other any other questions?
I was gonna say, don't be afraid of submitting due to rejection, because I bet we all have been rejected at some point.
I was rejected recently. I'm a judge. I was rejected last year. Now, I redid that
I'm
one and
here.
got out. Yep.
I'm
Oh,
here.
shit.
I am here just because I wanted to say
Hide the McRibs.
I took particular pleasure in rejecting Prophetic's track. No, I didn't, but yeah, don't be scared of submitting, guys. I mean, we even reject the judges, and we're more than willing to reject, anybody.
Yeah.
So it's egalitarian
Equal
here, man.
opportunity dagger wielders.
Absolutely.
Dialect asks, this is more for Hemo, Sage, and Josh, but what's the transition from Sage to Judge been like? I feel
Well, I technically wasn't a sage.
right.
No, but you were like the sage before the sages. Before we decided you guys were wise, you were a sage.
Or
the
workshop
proto
moderator.
Sage,
Yeah.
The land before time.
Sage.
We ended up creating the sage role out of there was like a judge test that we did, and we found that there were certain qualities that these guys had, and they were active in the community, and putting them on the panel at that time did not make a lot of sense. But we still wanted to like have like sort of focus that energy in the community. So which is why we created the sage role. So um, I think the thing with sages is I think we didn't want to make sage be a thing where it's just like, okay, well, you're going to be a sage, and that's just like junior judge. It's not really the same thing. We wanted sages to kind of be like a unique role in the community, but being a sage kind of like trains you up to eventually try for the panel. So, um, yeah, but like Josh, safe. How did it feel moving from being a sage to a judge?
100% prepped for
Yeah.
the position. Like,
Yeah.
easy A to B. Like, the getting to do reps in doing office hours and listening to the workshop, in talking with other judges, like the hardest thing was the judge test. Everything else after that has been just like doing the work. And it really is like you have to put your foot on the gas pedal and put the tires on the road. And when you do that, you get better at it. Like, who knew?
Yeah.
100% in agreement with Seth on that one. It's being in a position, putting yourself in a position to provide direct feedback for folks to get those reps. Very, very helpful to get up to this level of being a judge, because this is it's not a junior judge role.
Yeah.
There's a good bit of skill set overlap that does come in very handy.
I'd like to call out as well, and this is just a general statement about this. Certainly being a judge or a sage or whatever is not the be all end all, right? Like we are a community that's made up of a lot of different skill sets and a lot of different needs. Like if all we had were people who knew music and could evaluate music, it'd be pretty hard to get like the visualizers taken care of and get the code done on the site and all that. So having the combination of people who continue to contribute is a big deal, and having a lot of people who are just here to help out other people regardless of having a role or not having a role, I feel like is a
Yeah.
critical component of what makes OCR great, as opposed to some other feedback loop oriented social medias.
Well, I think the
So
thing is, I think the unique thing about OCR is that I don't think there is really any other community that has a strong culture of critique the way that we do. We're actually pretty unique in that regard, even without our like official sages and judges doing that. If you go back for as long as OCR has been around, the work in progress board, which evolved into the workshop, is such a big thing, right? Like, there's no other place where you can go and like post something you're working on, and then people give you constructive feedback. Most artistic communities are kind of built around the idea of you post a thing that you made, and then everyone just says something nice about it, or they don't say anything at all, right? Because that's just the culture. Um, so OCR is kind of unique in how we have this culture of critique. You don't find this anywhere else. It's really difficult to find other communities like this. And it's kind of because we do this showcase model of, you know, getting posted to the site becomes this sort of soft goal that people have in order to like improve, right? Like if we didn't have this, then, you know, if you posted a track, someone would tell you your drums don't sound good. You would just say, fuck you, right? Like, you know, just like, why are you telling me my drums don't sound good? I shared this with you and you're telling me my drums don't sound good. But if you share your track with the goal of getting on OCR, someone says your drums don't sound good. You'd be like, oh, why don't they sound good? What can I do to fix them? Right? That kind of changes like the interaction model. So because we have this culture of critique, which is very unique on the internet, it's really kind of interesting. Um, and that's what sort of like sets us apart. And it's really nice that it's not just judges and sages who are doing this critique. It's just people hanging out in the workshop. Like a lot of people here in the chat right now are people who hang out in the workshop and provide feedback to each other. And it's really nice, right? And there's like real things that people are learning from each other, you know? So it's really, really good. And you kind of get this in other communities like DoD, and like there's like sort of like extension of this in like other places, but like, you know,
Yeah, pixel mixers.
it's a really, Pixel Mixers also sort of has it too. So it's, I think the VGM community is kind of really unique in that regard. You know, if we kind of, expand a little bit out from OCR, but OCR has been doing it for like 25 years, right? Like, it's kind of just, it's really nice.
No, Zircon has spoken to it on multiple occasions, including in some of the pro audio communities that he frequents. That just like Sharik said, right? You don't get the level of feedback, and there's not that overall culture of wanting to provide in-depth criticism on stuff. It's very difficult to come by. He's like, you'd have to pay people typically to get this level of feedback for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're just about at time. Thanks everybody for coming and listening to us blab. I think we got up to 25 people at one point in total that were here. So this
27
really,
was the highest number I saw. Yeah.
It's a nice,
yeah,
it's a nice
it's
turnout,
nice and
guys.
successful. So we'll probably plan to do this again. It probably won't be. It might be once a month if that. But when we're coming up on that, I will hit up some folks and we'll see who's able to contribute stuff, and we'll go from there. I'm glad this was a winner. Thanks for
Yeah, so, hey,
attending
It was fun.
the no show.
nice.
Yeah,
Thank
now
you
that
for
it's-
submitting.
Yeah, thank you, folks. And now the challenge to actually translate all those verbal votes into actual real votes in the threads.
I already
good luck.
started bitching at people in the judges
Mhm.
chat, so don't.
I already typed up one vote already.
It's true.
Hey.
And because
Name,
I
ends, and why I complained about voting. So
yes, and because I want to abuse my one button one more time, the total count of our votes here was yes, no, split decision, no, yes.
Very nice.
Wow, you really can't chop it any more symmetrical than that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice.
all right, thanks y'all. Good to
All right,
see
guys.
everybody.
Nice
Have a
work.
great Juneteenth tomorrow.
Yeah. Happy Juneteenth. Hey, guys.
Happy Juneteenth and good night,
But-
y'all.
Love everyone. Love everybody right now. And we're stopping.